Hi, I am Jausan, the writer and composer for The Romantic Truth, which is a website that's based on relationships. We talk about various topics involving dating, romance, marriage, and the like. One thing that we are not, and I stress this very, very adamantly, is that we are not a therapy session, or we don't have a staff of therapists available to assist in, more complicated or complex situations that may involve a more in-depth approach as far as therapy when it comes to family matters. What we are is a form of infotainment, where we bring out certain topics, discuss and examine those topics, and look at it from a logical perspective using data, statistics, and probability as the catalyst of our own determination in respect to our decisions on certain practices, certain strategies and tactics to use on the dating scene. Now, some of you have written in respect to many complex problems that you're having, and we love your email, and we enjoy reading some of the things that you share with us. However, I think that what has happened now, a lot of people are getting in relationships and are not really thinking it through prior to doing so, and they're making some of the most fundamental mistakes in the process. These mistakes range from not really properly vetting the person before they actually start dating them, or finding out later that they may not want that individual in their lives only after they have shared too many things too quickly. And that is a common issue when it comes down to relationships. Now, one thing that I'm going to cover today in this few minutes that we have left is the process of disengaging or leaving a relationship. It is common for people to make an excuse or come up with some other rationale in order to basically flee the relationship. However, there are some considerations that you must look at first, and one being that you should really consider whether or not you got to assess the value of the individual. That is the most important thing. How many times have you heard people say, "Oh, well, I want to, just be friends with this individual. We can split up, but we want to be friends." I would not recommend this approach. If you are the person on the receiving end of a relationship and they tell you, "Let's split up and just become mutual friends," what mutual friends means, in essence, it translates to, I don't want to necessarily be intimate with you, but I want to exploit the opportunity just in case you become successful or in case something changes in your life. I want to have this voucher where I can come back into your life and resume where I was before. Now, I might not, how could I say it? I might not be intimate with you, or I might not be as close to you as before, but I still want to exploit the privilege of that position that I once had in your life. In other words, to be in your quote-unquote cabinet. I recommend that you just totally do away with that sort of approach. If you wanted that individual to be your friend, you would have stated that in the beginning. You would not have waited until a breakup in order to do that. So, in that respect, out of respect, just walk away. Just walk away. Kill the friendship. You were intimate because you're not usually intimate with your friends. And I tell guys all the time, especially more guys than women, because guys run into this situation where he will meet a woman, they will go out on a date, and she will have this plethora of men that are her friends. And these guys are calling them maybe different, pet names, or they may, know things about her that they may share occasionally with you. And then eventually you find out that you're maybe guy number 75 that she has either slept with, or she has dated, or, maybe these guys want to sleep with her also. So it puts you in a bad situation in the beginning. So my recommendation to guys that are caught in this situation is to, let her keep her male friends. because apparently she have enough people in her life right now in order to go on and not necessarily waste your time. Because what it comes down to, eventually the relationship will probably end, especially if these guys have had relationships with her. And what she's doing basically is collecting a whole bunch of guys. And this is more of a self-esteem issue than it has to do with any kind of relationship just breaking up. Another question that you may want to ask a person that you're interested in dating is, why did you break up? This is a very important question, on past relationships. And listen carefully. You may see patterns form. You may see that this individual goes from relationship to relationship to relationship. And one thing to note for both men and women, a person who has been hurt and never really had a decent relationship, the only thing they know is hurt. So therefore, what they do is they bring that hurt into every romantic situation they can think of, because that's all they know. So what they wind up doing is having this trail of hurt people that they have left. And you don't want to even waste your time with that. And, it's not your job in order to train them on how to have a decent relationship. And you have to go and draw a line somewhere in the sand to exemplify that. Because if you don't, what will happen is these people will eventually bring you down to their level where you're scrapping over certain issues that are totally irrelevant to you. And it's not even worth getting into the sand on that matter. Another thing, some of you are talking about, leaving your family and taking off with an individual that you're in love with and the family may not like. I would think twice, 3, maybe even 4 times on that. Because if you're going into this relationship and you did not have any objectivity and you're more concerned about doing it your way and not being wrong, that is the worst way to go. What you want to do is to look at the relationship objectively from their perspective, from your friend's perspective, your family, and different people, and then your own perspective. Make your own assessment, because so many times people are so concerned with not being wrong and making the right decision because they feel as though the relationship has a direct reflection on their judgment, which it does, don't get me wrong. However, if you go into the relationship and you're basing that judgment on a unilateral approach or your own approach, then you're making a big mistake. Because what happens then is usually it leads to you're involved with this individual. That individual may know they're not liked or under scrutiny by other peers and family. So what they will do is try to isolate you. Once they get you away from the people that support you, then they have you and they can kind of mold you into the thinking and the way and the mindset that they prefer and that they can actually live with in a relationship. What does that mean for you as the individual? That means basically you will be manipulated, exploited, and you'll fall in line. However, here's the problem with that. Sounds good for some who say, oh, we'll work it out, we'll be together and blah, blah, blah. The problem that you have with this is that eventually this individual will probably start losing respect for you. Because with anything, when something is routine and they've mastered it, it becomes exploited. It becomes abused. It becomes, take for instance, look at your situation on the job. How many of you are on the job and you came in motivated, happy, all the rest, but have been passed over for promotions, have seen other people climb up the corporate ladder, and you're still there, stuck in that same position in that same cubicle? Well, there's a reason for that. You have become routine. When you become routine, then you're overlooked. You're considered to be thankful to be there in the first place. And then what happens is there's a sense of marginalization that takes place in relationships, where in order to keep the person, you marginalize their efforts, their achievements. You marginalize them as a person, as a lover. And when you've done that, what you've done now, you've hit their self-esteem. Once that happens, then you have full control of that individual. Women fall victim to this more so than men. Men will leave beforehand. Women will try to tough it out. And those of you that like to say, oh, well, I'm fighting for this relationship, I'm fighting for my love, what you're fighting for is for more treatment of what you've gotten before. Nothing will change. Men don't change, ladies. I hate to tell you this, men do not change. They will modify their behavior, but they will not change. Now, of course, if they are doing something that maybe threaten their lives, such as alcoholism or doing drugs or something like that, yeah. But believe me, they're not changing. What's happening is there's a force that's changing them. Some people attribute it to religion. Some people attribute it to other things. But it comes down to self-preservation. Because through it all, what relationships are is this unified effort in order for two parties to work together in order to preserve each other's livelihood. That's what you come down to. That's what it comes down to in a relationship. It's not about one individual going out there and one-upping the other. That's called competition. And there are some people who are involved in relationships that are competitive. And when I say competitive, not in a healthy way, but in a way whereas one individual may do something or may achieve something, but not share the achievement with their partner. Therefore, they treat them more or less like they are just a roommate or some college buddy that's frat boy or frat buddy that's in the house with them. When this occurs, what will happen, the relationship will definitely suffer. There's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. So before you get into a situation of this nature, you really need to think about and really look through all of the aspects. Because, see, people will spend more time buying a car at a dealership. They will haggle over price, over features, and everything else. But in a relationship, people will take it at face value and then hope it works out for the best. So you see the dichotomy here. You see where there's this major difference in the way people approach things. Because relationships are undervalued. They're one of the most undervalued elements of our lives. We value the things we can acquire, the jobs that we can get, the money that we can make, the retirement that we can have, over the person that may be a partner in our lives forever. So we need to think about these things because they're vital and they're very important. Another issue before we close out here has to do with infidelity. And we're going to be talking more about this throughout the series of videos that I'm going to produce. Infidelity is something that's a threat, of course, to almost all relationships, without a doubt. Even though you know your partner, you will never know full disclosure of your partner's behavior prior to your relationship, during your relationship, and even after they're dead and gone in the ground. Because what happens is a person has this filtering process, all of us do, of what's appropriate to share and what's not, what may be embarrassing or may be of lowbrow as far as other people knowing. For instance, how many times have you been in a relationship, found out things about a person that they didn't come up and disclose initially? You had to find out through a third, fourth party. This is a common thing because, again, the term self-preservation comes to the forefront. They want to forget those things and try to come in and start anew. And what you will find is that people who are perpetually doing this, reinventing themselves every 6 months or every 8 months in a relationship, there is a personality flaw somewhere. Because here's the thing. In your lifetime, you usually start over about every decade of your life as far as a new beginning in some way, form, or fashion. Rarely will a person do that every 6 months or every year. True enough, you make New Year's resolutions, you make goals and all these things. And of course, goals are hard to fulfill. So in the next series of videos, I'm going to talk about, in the next video as a matter of fact, I'm going to talk about more in detail about this situation when it comes down to infidelity. I hope you tune in, and welcome to Romantic Truth. I'm Jausan, and more to come. Have a great evening or a great morning, depending on where you are. And remember, love is something that we all have to share.